Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, Run Blog Run, your favorite program, Socialing the Distance. This week we've got Ben Flanagan, and Ben's a University of Michigan grad. He is a Canadian, and we all like Canadians, and he's won Falmouth 2 times. He's won the NCAA 10,000 meters too, which I thought was such a cool race. But Ben, nice to finally meet you.
Hey, thanks, Larry. I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
So wanted to kind of give our readers, some of them had appreciation for you at University of Michigan. Some of them saw you had this iconic picture of you winning Falmouth for the first time. And I mean, I remember running that back in 1985, and wow, it's just a cool race. And to win it, that's so awesome. What did the Falmouth win, what did that do for your career?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. It did a lot for my career. Definitely got me on I guess probably solidified my deal with Reebok and Coach Fox, considering his history on the roads and his appreciation for the roads. But truthfully, my win at Falmouth actually did more for my whole life than actually just running. So not everyone knows this, but Falmouth has become a second home to me. It's actually where I met my girlfriend now, who I live with in Charlottesville. I met her my first time there in 2018. So now I've become very close with her family, and I go to Falmouth as often as I can. So I've got an amazing support network there to go and compete in front of people now that I know a lot more personally in the community. And the Falmouth Road Race staff has involved me in a lot of events. It's been amazing. So I love going there. It's done, it's not only to help me pay for my master's tuition, my final year of grad school, got me my deal with Reebok, but it's also, set me up in a lot of other ways for my life. So it's been pretty remarkable.
Cool. What's your master's in?
Social work.
Oh, wow. Awesome, man. You went to the University of Michigan. Obviously, you started running as a youngster in Canada. Tell us how you got involved in running.
Yeah, I was really fortunate, just by luck, really, and that's kind of a theme throughout my whole career, is that a lot of it is accredited to my support network, and again, that was really just came down to luck. So I'm from a city called Kitchener, Ontario. If anyone's a hockey fan and follows junior hockey, they might know the Kitchener Rangers. If you're not, it's a suburb 45 minutes from Toronto, and a big sports town. I went to a high school, 2,000 kids, a pretty big high school, but my sisters actually brought me out to the cross country team because they loved the coach. And turns out she was a 7-time All-American from Villanova herself, astounding runner for Canada, and in the NCAA system. And it's not always super common in Canadian high school system. So I was lucky to just connect with someone that knew the sport so well. And in combination with that, I actually was in the same high school class as Jamie Fallon, who was a 2017 NCAA champion for Michigan in the 1500. So we had a really elite crew, and it's not like we went to a sports school. It was just, honestly, a kind of just random Catholic school in my hometown. And we were lucky to have an amazing coach, an amazing mentor. And I fell in love with the sport, had a natural talent for it. She directed me to a local club where I started training with some older guys, some college guys. And I always just leaned on Sully, who's my high school coach, Sully. I've got 2 Sully mentors in my life, and her husband, and they've really just made sure I was on path to achieve my goals and ultimately go to the NCAA, which was my goal really early on in high school. And having that sort of structure and clarity and direction was pretty much everything that I just try not to take for granted, because it was just a lucky situation, really.
What was your training like in high school?
Yeah, it was, I loved running, and almost to a fault. So I was kind of always trying to do as much as I could. And again, that's where having a mentor like Christina Sullivan was so helpful, because she always kind of reeled me in. I probably would have started doubling a year earlier if it wasn't for her telling me to pump the brakes. I probably would have ran more miles. So Our training was pretty unconventional. And that was after my grade 9 year, I joined Tri-City Track Club in my hometown. And that's who was the coach there was Pete Grinsbergs, who was the coach of the Wilfrid Laurier University team. And he also coached Nate Brennan, Matt Kerr, and a few other phenomenal athletes from the Tri-City or Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge area. He did a lot of interval-based training, not a lot of track work. A lot of my stuff was effort-based, 20 by a minute on, minute off, 10 by 2 minutes on, 1 minute off. So I was a phenomenal cross-country runner because I was so used to, just managing my effort. On the flip side, the track was always really tough transition for me because I didn't really do any track work. So I was always kind of a huge threat in the fall. And then the track season, it took me about 2.5 months to finally get my legs under me. But I would say I probably started around maybe 40 miles running with my sister on easy days and then 2 to 3 workouts a week. And by my end of high school, I probably was running about 70 miles with 2 to 3 workouts with some college guys. And that set me up pretty well to transition to college.
What was the biggest difference for you between being a high school runner in Canada and coming to the University of Michigan?
The depth and in terms of competition. So the way the Canadian system works, we have divisions based on age. So I only competed against grade 9s and grade 9, only grade 10s and grade 10s, and then grade 11, 12s, and you can actually do a 5th year in high school in Canada. They all compete against each other. So very different from the high school system, where as a freshman in high school, you're kind of get used to getting your teeth kicked in by all the seniors. So I never had that experience. I was always, fighting for titles for age groups. So, going to a Wisconsin Invitational and coming 134th as a true freshman was a pretty eye-opening experience for me because I just was never used to losing, but to that many guys and by that magnitude. So that took a big learning curve for me, was trying to stay patient and set incremental goals because I wanted to be the best right away, and I just wasn't. And that was pretty challenging for me considering my success at the high school level.
You in 2018 you won the NCAA 10,000 meter title. I try to describe the 10,000 as a moving chessboard, and it is a very cerebral race. How did Coach Sullivan prepare you for the 10,000?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, Sully and I stay in touch nowadays. Kevin Sullivan now, a Michigan coach. And we still kind of think back to that time frame. And it was it's pretty wild. Everything worked out because I actually came off a few injuries in the winter. I was in a grad program. I really wasn't able to practice much with the team. So I was in a very weird training environment, but we started to kind of just find some things that just started to click and some things that worked. And one of those things was actually speed work. I told you, my development in high school, I didn't do a lot of speed work. I did a lot of cross country training. And then I feel like when I got to college, I was almost kind of pigeonholed into being a 10K guy or a distance guy. But I also was a 407, 408 miler in high school. So leg speed was there. I never really worked on it at any point in my career. And we kind of started dabbling with it mostly because of my history of injuries in university. So we lowered the mileage, really tried to just focus on intensity. And sure enough, the speed really started to come around. And there was also like a trickle down effect to the aerobic stuff too. Once I was able to run fast quarters, all of a sudden 800s were easier, mile repeats were easier, tempos were easier. I guess sharpening kind of that skill gave me so much more confidence, considering I was never really used to waiting that long in a distance event because I was always the guy that had to push early and get out kicked by all the fast guys. So once I kind of had that final piece and I knew I could hang with my strength and I wouldn't have to make any impulsive moves far out and I could just wait, that confidence was a game changer for me in the championship phase of the season. And, it all kind of just came together at NCAAs where it was almost the perfect storm of patience, strength, and speed all being showcased at the same time. And a race that was set up perfect for me to win, really.
What is the key to running a good 10,000 meters?
I would say patience more than anything else. That's me, at least. There's a lot of other athletes out there that, are just more comfortable hammering or setting the tone early and can rely on their endurance. That's actually a pretty tough way to run for me. I thrive a lot more off of feeling good for as long as possible and, really having confidence in the later stages of the race. So for me, running a good 10K it pretty much comes down to checking in on how I'm feeling at 5K. And that's usually when I know I'm going to have a good one or things are going to not go as well as I'd like. It takes a long time to build the strength that you can stay patient and calm at, 67, 66. I would say if you can learn to make those, the slightly uncomfortable, more comfortable and be calm and not try to rush into things. It's really about, just feeling good in the last 2K for me.
If you were not going to run the 10,000, what distance would you prefer to race?
Probably the marathon. Sorry, that's not totally true. The marathon would be my best event. I think it likely will be at some point in my career. But I prefer to run the 5K 100%, even the mile. I love speed work. I love track stuff. And, that might've been one of the reasons why things worked out so well with Sully and I my last year is I was just loving training in an area that I never got exposure to. It was fun for me. I'm a 10K guy, but I don't love the tempos. I love the, quarter repeats, closing last reps hard. And, I love being able to rip a good 5K, and it might not come as easy to me, but it's definitely my preferred event. But it's also a matter of, playing with the cards you're dealt. And I understand the 10K is my best event. So it's the one I typically put the most focus on.
What type of, give me a sport that you enjoyed.
Pardon me?
What kind of speed work did you like?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have drank some more water before this. Sully and I had a really good workout where coming off a 10K. So we'd run a 10K on, Saturday or Sunday. The first workout back might be on a Wednesday. So after 3 days of, low mileage and just kind of building back into easy day running. And then we do maybe 200, 300, 400, 3 sets. Or 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4. Just like super, super low volume session where you'd start, at maybe for the 2s, 30, 29, 28, and then similar 45, 44, 43, and then 60, 59, 58, and then maybe the last set, run something real quick that, you didn't know you could run, a 25 point, a 39 point, or, sometimes as quick as a 53 point. And that's when things really started to get exciting for me because I've never run those splits before. And I felt like once I had that kind of, that kind of speed at the end of a session, I was like, wow, if I feel this good hitting the bell, now I can run a 55 at the end of a race. It was never in the cards because I'd never run a 55 in my life. So it was pretty cool to really sharpen things. So that's one. I would just say, low volume, high intensity. And then otherwise, maybe another session we did was like a 150, 200, 400, same idea though. So just kind of building and then throughout the workout getting a little bit faster, but also making 29, 30 second pace, feeling pretty good.
What, when you ran the 10,000 in the NCs, did you realize that it would come down to more than likely your kick?
Yeah, that was the thought. So Sully and I actually had a check-in that day where we kind of, as we always did, to check in about the race and talk about our goals. And the regional race, which, typically people don't pay as much attention to because it's all about just getting the qualifier to nationals, that top 12. I happened to feel great at the regional race, and I was third next to Vincent Kiprop, who was second in the NCAA championships, and I believe it was Lawrence Kipkoech at the time from Campbell. They were first and second. However, at regionals, I tried to make a move on the outside on Vincent Kiprop with 200 to go, and he just held me off so strong, and it kind of zapped me coming to the home stretch. And then I noticed his home stretch was pretty strong too. He had another gear that, A, I didn't really have, and B, once I was top three in the funnel straight away, I didn't press like crazy to try to take the win, but I don't think I would have won even if I did. But what taught me for the NCAA championship is not to make a move with 200 to go on Kiprop. So what we discussed in the meeting of the day of the race was being the last guy to make the move, and just being there at 200 to go, but not making a move at 200 to go, and pretty much leaving it as late as possible. That being said, the move that Vincent made at NCAA's was phenomenal. Like at 200, he went so hard that, there was moments in that last 150, I didn't even think I was going to be able to stay on him. But fortunately, I kept him within a distance that I could make it up in the last 100. But if I had made a move at any other point on the backstretch, that last gear wouldn't have been there, and I don't think I would have won. So that conversation ended up, being really productive. Usually you predict things like that and you're way off, but that one was pretty bang on. We had a good idea of what to expect just from the race 2 weeks prior.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I was just curious about you ran some races this summer as you were trying to qualify for the Canadian Olympic team. And I was just reading about that a little bit. And you focused on the 5,000. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Was that because you thought that the 10,000 was already pretty well decided? And again, it works a little differently in the Canadian system than in the U.S. system, I believe. So what were you up against?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've gotten that a lot because, historically all my success has been in the 10K. So when people kept seeing me go to bat in the 5K, it raised a few eyebrows because they're like, why doesn't this guy go for the 10? And honestly, it came down to the world rankings. The world ranking nowadays, you got to be ranked within us. Well, basically, for those that don't fully understand it, there's a secured spot for those that hit this super standard, they call it. So you don't necessarily have to hit the standard, but it secures your spot. 5K was 13.5, 10K, 27.28. And then basically there's a field size of X amount. 5K, I believe it was 46, 10K, 28. And those that don't hit the super standard, they fill the rest of the field based off of the rankings. So I kind of felt like, okay, I've got 13, 13.5, and 27.28. I might hit one. I might not hit either. So I'll try to make it off of world rankings. And I think 13.5, 27.28 is it's pretty much a toss up. I would say probably equally likelihood for either, because I think 27.28, in my opinion, is actually a little bit harder, but it's more my event discipline. Now, here's the important characteristic is the field size for the 5K was 46. The field size for the 10K is 28. And what happened was more than 28 guys ran the super standard. So there was no slots even left for rankings. So at that point I had no choice but to run 27.28. Whereas the 5K, there was the opportunity to run, 13.20 and get in off of ranking. I just had to be within the right standing in Canada. So as you can tell, I've thought about this a lot, and with the help of my agent, Dan Lilo. But the challenging part was 10K in Canada was definitely less competitive and an easier path to make it, but from a global scale, way more difficult. Whereas the 5K from a global scale was a lot easier to make, but in Canada, it was pretty much one of our best events. So anyways, I made the decision to focus on the 5. I would have made it off of ranking, but I got beat out by 3 other Canadians who ran the first, second, and third fastest marks. They're the 3 fastest individuals ever in Canada. When Luc Brochet ran that 13.12 out in British Columbia, that was when I knew I pretty much just ran out of time and I wouldn't have another opportunity to beat him. So Yeah, it was definitely a tough pill to swallow at first, but at the same time, I feel like I'm a guy that can respect a good loss, and I just got beat by some guys that really showed up. And had I do it all again, maybe I would try the 10K and try to run 27:27. But at the time, I didn't think there was going to be three guys running faster than 13:12 in Canada. But that's what ended up happening in an Olympic year, you know.
You and I've also seen in some of the writing about you, them talking a bit about the marathon. Is that where Chris is kind of focusing you now? Your coach at Boston?
Yeah, not yet. I mean, Coach Fox definitely wants me in the marathon. It's definitely not a matter of if, but when. I definitely feel like I have more to prove on the track. But at the same time, when does that end, right? You know, I'm sure there's athletes that say that for 3-4 years and might not even set a PR. So for me, it's about, you know, really evaluating, where I can get the best out of myself, where I can be the most competitive, and ultimately, you know, what I'm going to enjoy the most, considering I think sustainability in this sport comes down to enjoying what you're doing. So with the World Championships coming up in Eugene, another World Championships a year later, and then the Olympic Games, there is a few back-to-back teams to make. So I guess that allows a little bit more room for error in terms of choosing what distance to focus on. Right now, I think I'm going to try to make the 10, run that standard 27:28 this upcoming spring to make that team in Eugene. And based on how that goes, it'll be then when I determine, okay, is it time to move up to the marathon or, basically give it one more go. But I can't imagine waiting much more than a year from now to start really focusing on the marathon if I want to be competitive by the time Paris comes around.
Will you attempt to run like the 3 at the World Indoors this season or upcoming season, or is that just a little too short for you?
Yeah, I would love to run a fast 3K. And odds are in Canada, there's definitely a potential or an opportunity to make the team because, a guy like Mo, do I see him running World Indoors? Tough to say. Justin, tough to say. So there could very well be some extra slots open in an event discipline that's short, let alone there's a lot of great up-and-comers like Kieran Lum, John Gay, even, Luke Brochet and CPT on the other side. Still, it's really competitive. But the biggest limitation for me is I'm likely going to be running the Houston Half Marathon in early January, which I'm stoked about. And, I think I'm getting ready to take a pretty serious crack at, hopefully ballpark of the Canadian record, which is around 61:30. So is it too short in general? I don't think so. Is it too short coming off a half marathon? Maybe. So we'll see. I doubt I'll focus on it, but things always change. So we'll see what happens.
For the 10,000 in non-pandemic years, many people head to Palo Alto and run the Peyton Jordan. Is that something we're going to see you taking a look at for this spring? Is that under consideration?
For sure. The 10K is a tough one. Like, it definitely comes down to pretty much just one shot. It's just not run enough times in North America and even really anywhere in the world to rely on more than one good shot to run the standard. So Palo Alto will very likely be the place to do it. The biggest challenge is there's kind of these pop-up meets, like Joe Klecker and Ben True. Not Joe Klecker. Ben True and Grant Fisher both ran the standard, at a race with 5 guys in it. And sometimes those are really about who you know to get in. I think an event like Peyton Jordan is probably more a good fit for me because it's later in the year. But yeah, I mean, there's no better place in North America to run the 10 than the West Coast. So that's probably where I'll try to do it.
How long have you been on the Reebok Boston Track Club?
3 years now. It's gone by fast. So I signed my contract shortly after the Falmouth Road Race in 2018. And then I finished my last semester of grad school that winter. And then I officially moved to Charlottesville in January of 2019. And I've been here since.
And you said 4 men and 4 women on the team?
Yeah, about that. We occasionally have some people in and out, depending on just someone that might be a former Syracuse athlete that's looking to train for a bit. Marty's currently in his residence program, so we might see him a little bit less. But in generally, yeah, you can expect to see about 8 people at practice.
How many days do you guys work out together?
We are together 5 days a week. Wednesdays and Sundays are on our own. And that typically consists of 2 workouts and a long run. And then I guess that would be 3 recovery days. 2 recovery days.
What is there a workout that Coach Fox has you do that you're not really fond of, but you know that it tells you really honestly where your fitness level is?
Yeah, there's probably a few. Fox keeps you on your toes. It's very rarely that you run the same workout twice. You do a lot of similar things, but there's always a variety, so that you don't. I think he almost challenges us to not ever compare our fitness to a previous session. That would be my guess, based on things just being slightly different. The most repetitive workout that I can think of for Fox is in and outs. And any Syracuse athletes would be very familiar with that workout. And what that means is 800 rep on, and then, which is the in, and then 800-meter rep off, which is the out. And typically it comes out to about 5-minute pace for anywhere from 7 to 10 miles on the track. And the 800 on is probably somewhere between 216 to 220, depending on the time of year. And that means the off is somewhere around 245 to 255. So it's interesting because you're not running that fast on the on, but you're not running that slow on the off. And you end up running, close to 9 miles at 5-minute pace. So super, super aerobically based workout that takes some getting used to. But that's one, if you can feel good on the ins and, recover well on the outs and make it through 8 reps at those type of paces, you're in a pretty good spot.
What about do you do sustained work?
Yeah, a lot of tempos. A big difference between what I did at Michigan and what I do here. At Michigan, we did a lot of hill repeats where, we go up the hill, down the hill, recover down the hill, hard up the hill. Whereas we never do any sort of hill repeats here. We just are always running hills all the time. So it's not that common for us to do a threshold tempo, timed run, whatever you want to call it, under 455 pace, which, I'm sure other pros don't think is that fast. But the terrain is always very challenging. So there's some sessions we do, maybe 5 miles at 5-minute pace that I would guess if you went to a, flat bike path would be probably closer to 440 to 445 type of effort. So it really gets you comfortable in your own rhythm. It's a lot about just managing your effort, because instead of just feeling like stable throughout the whole session, it's a lot of, heart rate spikes, recovering the opportunities you get, and also just getting used to feeling relatively uncomfortable the whole time. And I think that outcome is pretty clear on the roads for our team. Someone like Colin Benny, first American at Boston, 209 guy, 208 guy, Marty, and then myself, my success at the roads. It makes you really good at road racing, I think.
Your second time winning Falmouth, what was the difference between your first and your second wins?
Pressure and expectation.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a drastically different experience in terms of prep. I came in 2018 as, I guess I had a reputation after winning NCAAs, but no one, no matter how good you are in college, I mean, I guess that's not fair to say, but no one was expecting to win. No one would have cared if I came 5th. That would have been a good day. So I really had nothing to lose in all the game. I thrive in those conditions personally. In contrast, I've had pretty difficult times in the past stepping up to the plate when the pressure and expectation is there. NCAA is another great example where I was ranked 23rd out of 24 athletes. Like, I had nothing to lose that day. No one even knew who I was. So this time around, the challenge was every single person that week of the race asked me if I was going to win. And I didn't know if I was or not. And just kind of trying not to put so much pressure on myself was a tough task. And while still also holding on to that fire and that competitive energy to try to win. So it was interesting. I did what I could to just clear expectations and set myself to have a great day and, give myself the opportunity to win rather than, make it a case that I had to win. And when I was coming down the home stretch in the last 100 meters, it was honestly, my shoulders just came down and it was like a breath of like relief. It's like, I'm so glad I won this because it's just like, yeah, it just felt like the stakes were higher, I guess. But at the same time, deep down, I knew that all my supporters there just wanted me to run well and we're going to be proud either way. So that's the type of stuff I kind of told myself in the prep phase for the race.
Canada has a incredible tradition of distance running. I was raised for high school and college out on the West Coast, and there was a running shop called Ryan's Sports in San Jose, and the guy who founded Ryan's he was Canadian. He was the 1912 winner of the Boston Marathon. But you guys had incredible distance runners in the 30s and 40s. And who do you look up to in the Canadian hierarchy?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, first of all. And Canadian distance runners we're proud, and we always want to be competitive. And being right across from the U.S., those Canadian guys that go to the NCAA definitely come in with a bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they want to win and they want to show that like Canadian distance running is powerful and can compete. And being Canadian in the U.S. system certainly raises the bar and provides that opportunity for people to thrive in the situation that's the NCAA, because there's no one else in the world with that deep of competition. So we're really fortunate to be able to not travel far to get that type of competitive environment. And I'm very grateful for that development. In terms of my upbringing, I was a huge fan of Kevin Sullivan, mostly because I couldn't get away from his name on the results pages. Literally every single meet I went to from the only meet that Kevin Sullivan didn't have the record was my meet called District 8, which was like literally the smallest area meet that we'd go to in terms of qualification. And I set the records there in my grade 9 year, and I was all feeling proud and tough and chest puffed out. And I remember when I went to my next meet, which was would have been in CWASA, it's called Central Western Ontario Secondary School, whatever. I remember going to the record board and seeing that might have been Nathan Brennan's name at the time. And I was like, oh my God, this time is so much faster than anything I could even dream of running. And this was grade 9. And then you go to the next region, and that's when, Sully enters the same geographic region. And then his times are even crazier. So here I am thinking that my 4:20, 1500 was a real threat. And I'm looking at grade 9 kids that ran 3:59, 3:58. And then you see 3:45 a year later, 3:42. And it just opened my eyes to a caliber I just didn't know existed. And every single meet, I saw Nate Brannon, Kevin Sullivan. I had grade 9 level, 10, 11, 12. And then I started watching videos of them on YouTube. I just loved learning about those guys. And then as I got older, I started to love the NCAA and following NCAA events. So I really looked up to the top Canadian runners in the NCAA, who at the time were Cam Levins and Muhammad Ahmed. And I was fortunate to go on a couple of national teams with them when I was a junior and they were a senior. And then, just continuing to see Canadian athletes be competitive at the North American and global stage, I just kept following more people. And Jamie Fallon, I looked up to, throughout my whole career, because she was my age and, similar background and super talented. And then Justin Knight as well, who's actually younger than me, seeing his entrance to the NCAA. He did everything that I wanted to do when I entered the NCAA. So you didn't have to look far to find the guys that you could look up to and, that kept setting the bar higher and higher. And to this day, there's guys now and girls younger than me who, Gabriella Stafford, for example, she's the same age, but when she started running the Diamond League, it always just looks like someone's raising the bar. And right when you think like, oh, Canadians can win NCAAs, but they don't, win the Diamond League, then Mohammed goes and does that, or Gabriella Stafford. And then you're like, oh, well, they don't win Olympic medals. Then Mohammed Ahmed does that. And so it's been cool. I'm a big fan and proud of Canadian track and field right now. And distance running in particular is in a place that is pretty extraordinary. I can't remember since I've followed the sport that when we've sent 3 guys in a distance event. So although I was the 4th guy and that was a bit of a sting, it was pretty cool to see that we had 4 to, possibly 6 guys that could have made that team this year, when usually it was a challenge to get 3 on there.
We've talked about this just slightly. You're a member of the Reebok Boston Track Club. You're coached by Chris Fox. Chris has had a great career personally. Coached at Syracuse, now coaching with you guys. There was a rumor about him getting a position coaching for a while before it happened, and people were wondering what was he going to do. And the athletes I've talked to in your group just seem to really enjoy it. But the one thing they do, each one tells me, is that no 2 workouts are alike. There's always variety. So far, what's the biggest lesson you've learned as being part of the Reebok Boston Track Club?
I think a big part of Fox's principle is just to keep things simple. I as a runner at Michigan and following Justin's career and the Syracuse dynasty, NCAA cross country champions, you always wondered what it was like for those groups to train to compete at that level. And I think there's a natural bias to maybe overcomplicate it or think they have access to these, crazy facilities or I guess these complicated workouts. And, the truth is that program at Syracuse, they were pretty raw. They didn't do much besides run miles and, just get pretty good quality workouts in all the time. They weren't really focused on knocking things out of the park all the time. Easy days are always easy. The hard days are hard. And, it's all about kind of just stacking the fitness over time. So I'm the type of guy that, has a tendency to overcomplicate things or maybe overdo things or think too much about things. So it's been pretty refreshing to have a coach and a group dynamic where things are pretty simple and it's about just showing up to practice, putting in a good effort and going home recovering and then doing that again and again and again until you're pretty damn fit.
Cool. Well, we will wish you the very best in Houston this coming winter. I've been down there. It's a fast course and stay healthy. And I hope to meet you in the spring at a track meet somewhere, perhaps Palo Alto. But Ben Flanagan, thank you very, very much for today and for taking the time. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. This is Socialing the Distance. We've featured Ben Flanagan. He is a Canadian athlete. He is a member of the Reebok Boston Track Club, 2-time winner of Falmouth. He's going to be running a fast Houston half marathon coming up soon. Ben, thank you very much.
Thanks, Larry. I really appreciate it.
Take care. Well, hello, sports fans. This is the epilogue for Socialing the Distance. Today we featured Ben Flanagan. He is a University of Michigan grad. He won the 10,000 meters at the NCAAs in 2018.
Wait, Larry, I'm going to have you start over again. For some reason, it sounded weird when you said his first name. I don't know if it clipped or something, but...
Okay, all right. 10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2-1. Well, hello, sports fans. Larry Eder, RunBlogRun. This is the epilogue of Socialing the Distance, your favorite podcast. And today we featured Ben Flanagan. Ben is a University of Michigan grad. He's finishing up his master's in social work. In 2018, he won the NCAA 10,000 meter title. He was ranked 23rd going into that race of 24, just so you know. He was won Falmouth twice, getting ready for the Houston Half Marathon. And in a couple of weeks, he's going to be running the Manchester Turkey Trot, which should be a lot of fun for him. He said he got himself beat up there a little bit last time, so he wants to do better this time, and we wish him luck. Ben's a lot of fun. He's Canadian, eh? And he was coached by Kevin Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, at the University of Michigan. He also had a coach named Sully in high school who was competing at the NCAA level. And they have moved him towards the 10, even though he's got, 407 mile speed, and he's run some pretty mean 5,000 meters. He's a competitive guy. You can see that with him. He's being coached now by Chris Fox with the Reebok Boston Track Club. And I think we're going to see some good things out of him this spring. He's talking about trying to achieve the 27:28 qualifying mark for the World Championships. What we did ask him about was whether he was going to run the Commonwealths as well, because next summer there's the European champs, then the Commonwealths, then there's the World champs, Commonwealths, then the European Championships. So very busy year. And in 2024, there are the Olympics, and there will also be a World Champs too. So it's going to be some real craziness coming up the next few years. Actually, 2023 is a World Champs in Budapest, and then the Olympics in 2024. Too much caffeine today, guys. But Ben is a thoughtful runner. He is building layer upon layer to become a better runner. And I'm very curious to see what he can do. His 27:49 PB at 10,000 meters, I think he'll be much faster by the end of the season. The guy's got wheels, but he also knows how to think on his feet. And that's really key to being a good long-distance runner. And Canada's got a great tradition of them, from our friend Mo Ahmed, who we've done some wonderful interviews with, and to now including Cam Levins, and now including Ben Flanagan. So, Ben, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks to Mike Deering, our production manager. This is Larry Eder, RunBlogRun, Socialing the Distance. This was the epilogue where Larry kind of chats to himself.